Good morning and welcome to SMTConnect 2019. This is the first year with the new name, of course. It's changed from SMT Hybrid Packaging. And the event is taking place in a really buoyant industry this year. With a lot of different things going on at the show. I'll run through some of them. They have a PCB area, an EMS park, a cluster for mechatronics and automation. We've also got an area for newcomers coming to the show, and we've of course got the IPC hand soldering competition. And I'm joined by my first guest today from IPC, who of course is Brook Sandy Smith. Nice to see you, Brook.
Nice to see you too.
Okay.
Here in Europe.
Absolutely, yeah,
Yes.
of course, because you're normally based over in the United States.
Yes.
Now, you've recently joined IPC, and your function there is to work on some of the new technical programs. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Correct. I work in the events team as the technical lead, bringing a little bit more insight into planning the technical conferences and webinars and the technical education events that we have throughout the year. So I'm at this show this year to support IPC committee meetings, which is very interesting because having a European version of the IEC standard, that's really cool. Right. And also supporting a technical education event here, which is the topic is utilizing the J Standard 1 and the acceptability criteria, the A610 standard in combination, because that can sometimes be complicated.
Right. So how does IPC standards fold in with the IEC, for example? Because IEC comes in levels 1, 2, and 3. So how does that work?
Well, we're trying to make sure that we agree on things. I know I was the chair of the J Standard 4 committee, for instance, for IPC before I started working for IPC. And we were working very closely with the IEC group because they had a different vision for some of the parts of the document. And we want to make sure that the IPC standards and the IEC standards stay on the same page. Right. As far as what we're asking for.
Yeah, absolutely. So the meeting you've got tomorrow is, I guess, is on lead-free standards for military use. Is that correct?
Yes. So we have a group called PERM, which is the Lead-Free Reliability Initiative, which is primarily military contractors and aerospace companies from the U.S. that continue to use tin lead alloys because they believe they're more reliable. Right. And this committee keeps an eye on the reliability work that's going on for lead-free electronics, which they're very interested in what the automotive sector is doing, and they have one European meeting per year so that we can, since the Europeans are the forefront of lead-free electronics, or the push for lead-free electronics from 10 plus years ago. So we're meeting here to get an idea from the European companies how they're implementing lead-free and moving forward with that.
Right. Yeah, it must be very difficult. I know that the military contractors have started accepting some lead-free components, but I mean, there must be a shortage in trying to source some of the tin lead.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the biggest challenge for them right now, is that they can't buy tin lead components. Right. A lot of times the surface finishes are all lead-free now, and they're worried that if they keep with tin lead, it's going to get much more expensive over the next couple of years. So from a financial standpoint, they would like to go lead-free, but these are the highest reliability requirements of any electronics, if they're going into space or something. So.
But I mean, does that mean they're making a lot of mixed boards with mixed technologies on them?
Yes, or for like BGAs, they're reballing the components. They'll buy lead-free and then convert them to tin lead, which could be, it's an extra process. Right. It can be expensive, and so it can be pretty challenging. Yeah. But I know in the U.S., they are working on an initiative to fund some more lead-free research or reliability testing, because those kinds of projects can be quite expensive.
Yeah. Okay. You're also responsible for a lot of technical programs, and you've got some webinar programs coming up in the future. Can you tell us some of the ones that are on the horizon?
Well, actually, today we have the second part of a webinar from one of our European colleagues, Lars Wallen, who is from Sweden. He's been doing a series of webinars on just kind of generally how to use IPC standards and how they can help you make more money in your company and become more efficient in your manufacturing process. So that's been a cool webinar, and we have some more coming up in the fall. We usually take the summer off because everyone's on vacation.
That's true.
Yes,
true.
yeah, but next week in the U.S. in Baltimore we have the High Reliability Forum, which is the first conference I've really planned since I've been at IPC, and I think that'll be really exciting. We have a course from Banu Sood, Dr. Banu Sood from NASA, and we have a keynote from Collins Aerospace, John Bauer.
Right.
So it should be a pretty interesting conference and some panel discussions to keep it interesting. Actually, the biggest topic right now, I would say, is micro-via reliability.
Right.
There was just a brand new task group formed with an IPC to discuss this issue that many OEMs have been seeing, where in the manufacturing of stacked microvias, there can be a weak interface,
Right.
which is the worst kind of problem because it can make it through inspection and test and all of the things that you would do before you send out a product, but it's an intermittent failure. So it'll show up as things heat up,
Right.
and then it'll reconnect.
Right.
So there's a task group that's been super focused on that, and we're devoting a whole day at the Reliability Forum to the Microvia Summit.
Right.
So we can have the experts in this field present their data and then have a panel discussion to see how we can best move forward as an industry and different strategies that companies have come up with to mitigate the issue.
Yeah, I mean, there's always challenges coming up in the industry. I mean, one of the ones I heard recently is this 5G is going to bring in a huge number of challenges.
They are such high requirements for 5G.
Unbelievable.
It's a different way of thinking about things.
Some of these backplanes apparently are as heavy as 9 kilograms. I mean, it's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, Brook, nice to catch up with you, and thank you for telling us about some of the activities going on at IPC here in Europe and also internationally. And we look forward to catching up with you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Trevor.
Okay. Coming up after the break, we're going to be talking to Keith Bryant about SMTA Europe, who've got a few activities of their own going on. And welcome back. I'm delighted to be joined by my old friend and colleague, Keith Bryant. Nice to see Keith.
Very nice to be here, Trevor.
Yeah. Now, I was talking to Brook just before the break there, and one of the things she mentioned was her Harsh Environment Conference coming up next week. You've just finished one here in Amsterdam. How did that go?
It went very well. We had, this is the third that we've done. We've had an increase in tabletops and an increase in attendees every time that we've run it. We've already picked a date and a venue for next year. And yeah, it seems to be, Harsh is a topic that embraces a lot of things from, autonomous vehicles to higher temperatures of lead-free.
Right.
So it brings a lot of stuff together. And we get a really good number of speakers. I mean, we had Doug Pauls and Dave Hillman over from the US this year going through a lot of the work that they've done together. They've got some projects that they're running with IPC, and they reported on the results of that, which, everybody in the room kind of went, wow. And, when you've got that level of speaker, it always makes for a good event.
Absolutely. So is most of the emphasis based around the automotive industry, with it being based, here in Europe?
Yeah, a lot of the speakers were coming from automotive or an automotive background. Obviously, Doug and Dave are aerospace, but really, you know, the problems are the same, whichever sector that you look in.
Right.
You know, it's components, it's things running under high temperature, it's temperature cycling, it's thermal stress, you know, and also in some cases, you know, thermal, mechanical, and environmental and chemical stress all into the, you know, all in the same box happening at the same time. So yeah, you know, the as I say, you know, you've got the different sectors, but the problems are pretty much common.
Right. I think they're increasing as well because, again, and I don't want to necessarily go over what I said earlier, but, you know, the 5G that's coming in is bringing in its own set of reliability problems. You know, some of these backplanes are as heavy as 9 kilograms, and it's going to be hard to deal with them.
Yeah, I've seen some earlier ones that are even heavier than that. And, you know, it starts to become crazy. There's so much copper in these things that, you know, they're even one step above what I would call an internal heat sink that we've seen around for a while. You know, and the amount of heat that these things are going to generate is
warpage and all the things that go with it.
It's going to create a lot of problems, especially when you think of the environments that they're going to be put in. Yeah. You know, and the fact that these things just, you know, they need to go where they're put, and they just need to sit and they need to work for a lot of years. You know, because when they go down, it's like a small disaster for everybody that's within that area of the network. So,
Very true. So, SMTA, what do you call it? Europe has been going a year and a half now.
Yep, complete 3 years now. 2 years, 2.5, something like that.
Is it that long?
Yeah.
Okay, so
flies when you're having fun.
So tell us a little bit about how that's developing. Is the membership growing? Have you got other events planned? What's coming up?
Membership's growing very nicely. We have a regular series of webinars throughout the year. We're trying to do one a month. At the moment, we're running on about 10. Bob Willis is the backbone of that because, you know, he's pretty much Mr. Webinar for anywhere that you want to look. Yeah. So yeah, he's doing some nice, interesting ones. He's got one coming up later in May on X-ray and a few other things. And we have if you go onto the website, you'll see that, you know, there's a nice channel going out. Obviously, we have the Harsh Conference, which was our sort of starting point every year. This year in September, we have an event which is more about manufacturing and assembly technology. And we're holding that we're holding the same event, so we have 8 speakers and tabletoppers. On the Tuesday in September, it will be in Budapest, and on the Thursday, it'll be in Oradea in Romania. Right. So by having the same thing in 2 locations, first of all, it gives people 2 dates that they can come to the event, and secondly, the geography works because Germans will come into Hungary, and by choosing Oradea, there's, you know, a wide scope. It's quite close to the border. You know, we think people are going to travel there from the area around, and we've had a lot of requests from our members to do something in Eastern Europe. You know, the people there are still thirsty for knowledge. They're thirsty for wanting to know the new stuff that's happening. So we're hoping to line up 8 great speakers for them and have a very successful event.
Great. Well, we look forward to that. I mean, there's always new people coming into the industry too, so there's always a need for these events.
Yep, thankfully there's always a new audience for us, Trevor. That's what keeps us all going.
Great. Okay, well, no doubt we'll keep in touch throughout the rest of the week here. There's lots going on at the show this week. That's just the start of it. We've got a whole series of panel discussions coming up, so make sure and join us for that. But for now, this is Trevor Galbraith saying thanks for joining us.